You're not going to be able to see it here, but on a close-up, when they machined the spur or fitted the spur that runs the oscillation on the axle's main shaft, it looks like it gouged and grooved the axle, and I wanted to see if it was going to impact the seal. And I'll tell you what, it does. So, gentlemen, ladies, and anyone in between, I welcome you all, and today we'll be getting up close and personal with the latest iteration of Tsunami's very popular and very new series of fully machined, fully sealed, sub $400 saltwater egg beaters, the Salt X. And this, my friends, is the new compact 4000 size. And as far as I can tell, just through handling on the bench, it's perfect for you guys in the kayaks. It's perfect for you guys tickling the jetty tips using lighter braid. It's perfect for any inshore guy that wants a more compact package. You don't need a 20-ounce reel anymore. This is a much more compact, smaller footprint, better suited for rods 8 feet and under, 9 feet and under, that sort of deal. So, it's with all that being said, what we're doing today is going over the majority of the details. We're going to tear her open to see what makes her tick. And let's go ahead and get started. Out of the box, beautiful presentation. Comes with its own display case on the off season. Box it up. It has all pre-cut foam slots, so it slides right in just like so. Handle detaches. It's a thread-on handle. You can see right here. Just unthread the handle like so. And one thing I did notice is it's a little tighter than the 6000. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. I just want to go over what comes in the box. You have a bailless to manual line pickup conversion kit here. I put out a video, I'll link it up top in the right hand corner here, on how to convert your Salt X to a bailless manual pickup. Very simple, takes about 5 minutes. It also comes with a wrench, which will allow you to remove this cap here, remove this here if you want to access the handle bearing. And if you look here, can I get this cap off because the seal's kind of tight? It'll also allow you to get the drag stack apart if you need to service and maintain that. And that is seated and slotted right in there. And let's go ahead and get all that crap out of the way because we're going to go ahead now and get a weight. And we're also going to crack her open. 14.6 ounces of CNC machined goodness. And if you look here, it is a manual bail, so you're not going to accidentally have the bail trip back on you on the cast if you're one of those herky-jerky type casters. Clear my table. All right, let's go ahead now and get down to brass tacks and see what makes this puppy tick. This is what you're all here for. This is what I enjoy doing, besides actually fishing these reels. Start out with my trusty, rusty size 0. We are a posi drive, which is, for all intents and purposes, my most used screwdriver for working on all sorts of reels, from US market, JDM market, saltwater spinning reels, bait casters, you name it, it comes out for it. And we'll remove the handle. Go ahead now and see what size Torx this takes. All right, now for you guys keeping score, and I apologize I wasn't prepared for class, it took a size 9 Torx to remove these perimeter screws. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead now and see if we can't get the side plate all the way out. There we go. And as you can see, lots of lube, which is kind of what you want to see in a saltwater reel to keep any of the salt off of the bare metal. And what do we have going on here? We have no way to access the screw in the shaft. We're not going to be using a pin type remover to get this out. That's never a good idea. And okay, I'm going to take a shot here. And you can see, if you look here, super stretchy grease. Good stuff. That might explain why this is a little bit tighter. I think we can access that screw on the shaft through one of the holes. Okay. Wasn't very tight. tightly screwed in. Normally that's a Loctited screw, but every reel is different. Did I even have to do that? I don't know. Either way, it wasn't a very tightly Loctited screw. Let's take a look at the main gear. Just like the larger version, it is a fully machined, full-on stainless steel, and what looks to be a stainless steel pinion gear as well. Also looks like, is that stainless for the oscillation cam gear? I don't know. And, well, now we can remove the main shaft, which is a coated aluminum. And since we already loosened up the rotor retaining nut, clockwise to remove. Grab the Tsunami wrench, which fits right at top here. What was the trick with it last time? Was it this way? Yeah, that's what it was. Easy peasy. You can see this ring here, which is the rotor brake. So when you open up the rotor, you don't have anything rubbing against metal. Adds a little bit of friction so it's not flying all over the place. Okay, we have double O-ring sealing at the top here. Two bearings supporting the pinion and an anti-reverse clutch. And its sleeve. Fairly small clutch. I've seen bigger, I've seen better. It's got to be brought up. That's that's a mess. All right, now up until this point, we've covered all the basics: CNC machine aluminum frame, side plate, rotor, stainless steel gear set, and of course, sealing. Now, let's go ahead and do what I didn't get a chance to do when I covered the 6000. Let's get up close and personal with how this reel is made watertight. We'll start from the top down, which is right at the rotor retaining nut. You have the main shaft seal. Very simple. Looks to be a silicone-ish type seal. You can see it's fairly restrictive. You're not seeing the shaft slide freely down. It's just gradually making its way through. So there's a little bit of friction here, but there has to be to keep water and debris out. That's an effective seal. In addition to that, if you look, the pinion bore has a liner. What that does is it mitigates friction because it has to have a tight proximity to it. And anytime you're retrieving under any load whatsoever, this main shaft is going to lean, wanting to contact that. If it's metal on metal, even though this main shaft is coated to reduce friction, it's going to bind up a little bit. So they can take up some of that slack here, keeping the main shaft centered in the seal. A centered shaft traversing a seal makes for a more effective seal. That's what you want to see. There are reels out there that have lip seals at that main shaft that don't have that liner or bushing to keep it centered and reduce friction. This is a very good design. Moving down, the sealing at the top of the AR clutch, which has proven on many other reels to be a challenge, including on this one. And their goal here is to make a very effective seal without increasing friction too much. And I have to do a little bit further digging on this reel, degrease some of it to see if the reason why it's super tight is because of the lubrication. The lube that they use is super tacky and it's very elastic. So when it sticks to something, it doesn't just glide, it wants to kind of stretch. And that stretching is causing to, at least in my opinion so far, to be causing the reel to be a little bit sluggish. Because I'm looking at all the seals don't look to be very different than the 6000, which was a fairly free spinning reel. Now if you look here, this seal here runs on the rotor directly. Now watch, you're going to see that plug come through just like so. That's what runs along the lips of those seals. That's a perfectly adequate design. The only thing you have to watch out for is if debris does get up underneath that. It may be difficult to clear. Hold on a second. Because you could see that seal is kind of recessed in that well. So whatever gets up and over is going to basically live in that well. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's not a bad design. It's just a question mark that I have that over the test of time, we're going to find out how it proves out. Now, I haven't seen too many issues on the interwebs with the 6000 that's been out in the wild for a while. So, is it proving yet? I don't think with a quarter season and a couple reels in the wild, I wouldn't consider it proving yet as far as the design is concerned. However, I can say I like this design better than some reels from Penn, mainly the Spinfisher and the Slammer 3, that at the top, let's go ahead and pull this back out again. The bearing is virtually flush with the top, and it relies on the seal of the bearing along with the rotor being bolted down to that inner race and relying basically on the rubber lip seal to keep water out of the clutch in that bearing. The issue that I've come across personally, the seal didn't hold up. I had corroded pinion bearings. Never got past it to the clutch, but the bearing needed replacement. Next up is the seal found underneath this cap. So when this is screwed down here to keep the pinion, the clutch, all in alignment, like so, that seal there will prevent water that wants to get up through the threading underneath the rotor brake and on the outer edge of that bearing race from getting down into the frame, like so. Now, I didn't design this reel. I don't know if there's supposed to be a little discrepancy in the sizing of this O-ring. You can see here it doesn't want to lay perfectly in that gap. You really shouldn't have to worry about the water getting up past these threads, which if the threads are greased, water won't want to really percolate up past that grease, so it should be fine. Next up, perimeter seal. Screw holes on the outside of the seal. I was critical of the Penn Torque one, which proved that my criticism didn't matter because those reels were proven to be watertight, but they had the screw holes inside of the seal. So you had the screw heads that had to make contact tightly and evenly against the side plate, and the side plate had to be flush to the opposite side plate to make that seal. And I thought it was kind of goofy that they had the screw holes inside the the rubber gasket. I just thought that was goofy. But anyway, excellent seal. And it's not just like one of those Insta-seal and a seal in a can kind of deals. This is actually a fully molded and formed seal. That's not a cheap part to make. This is a one-off part. Looks to be effective. This is one of the easiest ways to seal a reel anyway. That's the perimeter seal. Simple. All right, last but not least, let's go ahead now and take a look at how Tsunami decided to seal off the handle connection point. And the reason for the air quotes is depending on what manufacturer you're dealing with, it's done a different way. So if you look at a Daiwa reel, they have the little light rubber lip seal, and you can see how it's kind of distorted. Every time you go ahead and remove the handle, put it back on, you have to kind of force it through that. It's not a very restrictive seal to begin with. It's probably the worst in the category, even though this is an amazing reel. Only weighs 11 ounces. Awesome reel. Then you got the way Shimano freshwater reels do it, where they have the rubber lip seal on the actual handle side itself that runs on the inner race or the inner bore of the frame. This is a Stella FI. We need a new Stella. Then you have how they do it on their saltwater SW reels, not including the Socorro or the Spheros SW3 and 4000, which I call the Inshore. They do it on the Twin Power SW, the Stella SW. They sandwich the seal in between the bearing, and that seal rides along the main gear's axle, which is exactly how they do it on the Penn Spinfisher and Penn Slammers. Again, threads on. That reddish color, that brownish color seal is running on the main gear's axle, which is, again, how they do it with this reel. The only difference is the seal here is kept external. Slides on just like that right here. Threads on. And then, man, this grease is something else. I got to get me hold of some of this lube. And you can see it goes twink, just like so. Rides right on there. Very effective method of sealing. I'm a fan of it. Again, in the wild, I've heard some issues with sand accumulating because they have grease all over the place underneath the spool here. I don't think you need all that grease and all that lube. Any lubricant on the outside is like a magnet to the sand and all that kind of crud. So, what else do we got? This one here. And again, to remove this cap and this side here, you just got to go ahead and use the included wrench, which is pretty cool. In terms of how you get the drag apart, I found out on the 6000 that I couldn't get the tool to work. I'm not going to force it on this one. You may need a little heat to break. Maybe there's, I don't know, it's tightened up too much from the factory. Maybe they use some kind of Loctite or thread locker. But I couldn't get the drag apart on a second reel now. So it's, with all that being said, guys, I know you guys have been asking about this reel. I know a lot of you guys have been really jonesing for a more compact sealed version and of an egg beater for the beach and the kayak. Does this fit the bill for you guys? Right under 15 ounces? Is that the size you wanted? Let me know down below what your thoughts are on this reel. I'm going to go ahead and finish up trying to figure out whether or not it's the grease that's causing the sluggishness. And you'll see me report back on that in a second. All right, a mere 5 seconds after turning the camera off, we found what we might think is the culprit. See how sticky this grease is? This is the crosswind block. And if you look here, this is the gear that drives the shaft up and down. And you see that dent in my finger that it left? That's how heavy the grease is. That's how difficult it is to turn. And I'm willing to bet that's the culprit. So we're going to go ahead and kind of clear that off. Hopefully this gets it out. Lifted that piece up. And we'll go in with a pick and gently see if we can't lift it the rest of the way. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to clean that out good. And leave it with minimal lubricant, or the proper lubricant. Now, saltwater reels. I love going heavy on the lube. Heavier you go, the tighter it gets. This was a little excess, if you ask me. Now you can see, we just Q-tipped it out. Actually, there's no remnants left. Oh, it's just the grease. And we're going to go ahead and pop that back into place. And there we go. Yeah, significantly different. Significantly. I couldn't even turn it when it was on the flat without using that post. Awesome. We're also going to make sure we don't have excess lubrication on the flat here, because we don't want it to bind to the face there. We do want some to protect it, but there's plenty of excess on the face of that. I'll borrow some from this area. This is some crazy grease. I like it. I definitely like it. I'm going to see if they can send me some. Hey, Tsunami, can you send me some lube? They're probably going to see this. They're going to be like, is this guy nuts? Listen, if you couldn't tell I'm fucking nuts when I take apart fishing reels on a camera like a television show, if you can't figure out that I'm nuts by now, what more evidence do you need? Come on. Why did I just make this more difficult for myself? Where's Ernie's bearing tool to the rescue? Alright, now, for you guys who have made it to this point in the video, congratulations. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself 2 thumbs up, high five yourself to your heart's content. You're welcome. I'm just kidding. And your eyes are not deceiving you. The handle is now on the other side. I figured I'd give you an update as to what I found in terms of what caused the sluggishness. And it was, in fact, the excess extra heavy lubrication in areas where you should use a lighter lubrication or even oils. And I went ahead and cleaned that out. Lubricated where necessary, basically moving around the fresh lube they used and using some oils on the seals. I used TSI 321, which is safe on all sorts of plastics and rubbers. I've never had an issue with the degraded seal due to TSI. And something I came across when I cleaned out the main gear and took a closer look and inspected some other things. Yeah. Had to think for a second. It's backwards now. I switched sides because you're not going to be able to see it here, but on a close-up, when they machined the spur or fitted the spur that runs the oscillation on the axle's main shaft, it looks like it gouged and grooved the axle, and I wanted to see if it was going to impact the seal. And I'll tell you what, it does. So over time, the scratches in that surface, since they're running the way they are, that's gonna ruin that seal in short order. Now, is it a big deal if you're fishing with the handle on this side? No, not at all. It'll wear the seal, but that seal is just fitted with a cap. It's not gonna, no harm, no foul. However, if you do reel with your right hand side, this will be compromised in a very short period of time, and you'll have to rely on the seal of the ball bearing and the tolerance between the axle's main shaft traversing the inner race of that sealed ball bearing. So, I mean, after the spa day this reel had, I can definitely tell you it is much freer spinning. It's not Shimano level, it's not Daiwa level, it's not Penn Spinfisher level, but it's what you would expect. It's Van Staal level, just not super tight Van Staal level. And now this is a reel that I would enjoy fishing much more. It's still, in terms of if you're kind of finesse fishing, you could see that the weight of the handle, it still doesn't fall. But it spins a little bit more than it did before. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This was a little bit different of an experience than what I had with the 6000. I was hoping that this would follow suit with the 6000 being super smooth. Really nothing to dock as far as negatives in the reel. This one wasn't as smooth out of the box. I saw some things with that chowdered screw, the excess grease, the O-ring underneath the clutch seal that was not seated and it did not fit properly. A couple things kind of stood out to me. Maybe just assembly things. But that main gear gouging on that axle, should you be fishing this reel with your right hand cranking the handle, will be an issue. So, it is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And until next time, tight lines, and I'll see you soon. So we're going to start off with the slow spin and then just give it a little oomph. As you can see, it's much more free spinning.